Welcome to the REI Hacker Podcast, where we unlock the secrets of real estate success. Join us as we dive into the journeys of top investors, mentors, and industry experts. Learn from their experiences and navigate the highs and lows of the investing world. And now, let's hand it off to our host, Benson Juarez.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here on this episode of the REI Hacker Podcast. Thank you to my guest, Alicia Jarret, for being here with us. I'm super excited. She comes to us all the way from Australia, and she is the founder of Supercharged Offers and is an international real estate investor, implementer, and entrepreneur. Alicia, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you too. It's so good to be here. As you know, we've met in person a lot and I talk a lot. So hopefully my Aussie accent's okay for everyone listening.
Yeah, I should have left the Australian part of it out just to see if people are like, wait a second, that doesn't
Wait a second,
sound
where's that sound
right.
coming from? Although I am speaking to you today from Phoenix. So I'm in the US, as you know, and I spent a fair amount of time over here. So this is my second home.
That's good. So Phoenix is your second home. Is there any place else in the US that you spend time in?
Yeah, look, as you know, I spend a fair amount of time over in Florida as well. And I recently had the pleasure of hanging out for a weekend in St. Petersburg, Florida. I think that's where I'm going to call home, Benson. It was just beautiful. But I love Phoenix. Phoenix has got a great network here. Got lots of friends here in Phoenix now. And it's a good place to do business in Phoenix. Time zone wise, it's also excellent.
Oh, yeah. So are you investing in any markets in the US?
Florida. Yeah. In the whole 8 years that we've done business over here in the US, we've only ever personally done Florida. Just seems to be the state that keeps on giving for us, which is wonderful. But we have customers that invest all over the US. So we kind of get to see that helicopter view of all markets, which is pretty awesome.
Has any of your clients tried to lure you into investing with them in different markets with JV opportunities?
I love that you've used the word lure there. Yeah, look, I probably get 2 to 3 times a month. I get not even just customers, but random people will just message me because of the network. Like you and I know, the real estate investing world is quite a close-knit community. So often now I get people just messaging me out of the blue going, I've got this multifamily deal. Do you want in? Or, hey, I've got this piece of vacant land. Do you want in? And we obviously have to say no every time. Main reason being is we've got enough on our plates, Benson. You know, we've called this the REI Hacker Podcast. We got enough hacks that we're working at the moment. And so I'm not adding more to my plate, which is good. But yeah, we often get asked. Do you get asked by other people as well, just by proxy of what you do?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. But I'm the opposite. I want to do it all.
Yeah.
And that's it sounds like you've
I wanna do
mastered
it
the
all.
no superpower. Like you know how to say no now.
Yeah.
Possibly
Let me clarify
stretching
though.
yourself too thin.
Yeah, exactly. I want to do it all, but I physically and mentally can't. So there's the difference there. And I think coming back to this whole, hacking, sometimes we've got to hack our own brains a little bit to really understand, like, what do we say yes to and what do we say no to? Because I often find as an entrepreneur, just the makeup of an entrepreneur is generally people that are open, that want to say yes, that explore lots of opportunities. And whilst that's great, about 12 months ago, Benson, we found ourselves in this situation in our own business that we were not playing at the level that we wanted to. Do you remember September last year when we were at our mastermind together and Sean McCloskey gave a presentation on what does 10 out of 10 look like for you?
Yes.
That really hit home for us. So for anyone listening, the premise behind that presentation was, look at everything you're doing in your business, everything from the conversations you have with customers to, how you're constructing your deals, to how you're managing your team, how you're managing your meetings on a daily basis. And tell me, do you give all of them a 10 out of 10? And that hit home to us like there was no tomorrow. And my business partner, Matt, and I, we really sat back and looked and thought, we're spreading ourselves way too thin because that bit over there is getting about 5 out of 10. This bit here is getting 2 out of 10. This bit here is getting sometimes a 7 out of 10, but on average, it's about a 4 out of 10. So we were really looking at our own business and we had to go time out. What do we now say no to and strip away so that we can give 10 out of 10? And I think it was a really interesting exercise to go through. And I encourage any entrepreneur out there, really always assess, do that mind hack where you are just going and looking at where do you spend your time? Because time is money.
It absolutely is. Did you recognize any trends by doing that analysis? Did you find that you were, giving a 10 to something you really liked doing, and the stuff that you didn't like doing so much was the twos and the threes, or was
What
there
a
any
great
sort of patterns
question.
to it?
Oh, that's such a good question. The short answer is yes, with a guilty smirk on my face, because it's natural, right? Whatever we enjoy doing, that tends to pretty much go to the top of the priority list most times because we enjoy it. So we look forward to it. Therefore, it doesn't feel like a chore or a task.
Mm.
So that's much easier. The stuff that I didn't enjoy doing definitely was lower down on the priority list. And even though I didn't enjoy stuff, that didn't mean that I didn't give it a 10 out of 10, because what it came back to at the end of the day, and I guess the trend that we noticed is, we use a term in our business all the time, what moves the needle? And what's
Mm.
the stuff that gets you to the next phase of revenue, that gets you to the next phase of growth? And whilst there's lots of things in our business that we're doing, or businesses, the stuff that we tended to put the 10 out of 10 in was the things that were moving the needle. And that's great. Okay. But then if we're all of a sudden prioritizing other stuff that's fun, but it doesn't necessarily move the needle, well, we've got to question ourselves, and really what we came back to as well, this was part of the exercise that I found the most valuable. We had to really refine our strategy even more so. And so this is the first year after 8 years of being in business, Benson. This is the first year I can actually say, like, hand on heart, we have such a well-defined strategy on what we're doing, what our priorities are, and what that means quarter by quarter, more than we ever have. And what that's allowed us to do is understand what we say no to.
Mm.
Because now the question that we're asking ourselves is not so much, is that a 10 out of 10? What we're asking ourselves is that part of the strategy? Does that help with this part of the strategy? Is that aligned with this part of the strategy? And if the answer is no, we got to let it go. That's
Right.
hard. That's really hard.
It really is. Now, do you think that what you discovered could be used universally as like just good business procedures, best practices, or
Yeah.
do you think it's unique for your business?
No, I don't think it's unique for our business. And I certainly know a lot of entrepreneurs that have what I call the bright, shiny syndrome.
Hmm.
You're familiar with that, right? We get a lot of customers that come to us with bright, shiny syndrome, where they hear things out in the ether from different investors, different groups they're in, different things where they're like, oh, that sounds great. I'll go and do that. Or that sounds like fun. I'll go and implement that. Or that sounds like it's going to be great for my business. Let me pay for that. And what they end up with is a whole bunch of stuff that they've paid for and they're hardly using any of it. And
Mm.
we found in pockets of our business that we had that as well. So I would say what we went through is universal to any entrepreneur, business owner, real estate investor. It doesn't matter. I think it's really good practice to make sure you've got a well-defined strategy. Now, if that's doing, like, there's a book out there called the 12-week quarter or the 12-week year. I can't remember. That slipped my mind now. But that's all about creating your strategies in what I would call your sprints. Having a sprint that you're sprinting towards every time. Whatever it is, as long as it's well defined and you can use it to be your North Star. North Star being when something comes your way, how do you use it to say yes or no to something? And I think that's universal across any business, Benson. It's
Yeah, I think it
not
is.
relative to just you and me. I think, and I often now pause and go, wow, imagine if we had done that a bit better years ago, but we don't know what we don't know. We're all learning, we're all evolving. If we had done that years ago, would we be in a different position today? Perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to tell looking back. But what was it that floated to the surface that was the most important thing for you guys to focus on? Was there
Yeah,
something? Was it sales? Was it
it was
relationships? Was it
sales.
marketing?
Yeah, it was sales. We really, and inherent in sales for us, by the way, is relationship and marketing,
Hmm.
because we're definitely a relationship based business. Yes, we've got products and services that we sell, but in the center of that is always a human. And so we're very much big on relationships and affiliates and things like that. So the biggest thing for us was sales, and we started to look at how we were measuring our sales, and we actually asked ourselves, what's our 10 out of 10 in sales? Wasn't anywhere near where we wanted it to be. And the reality is, and I'll be really open and honest when I share this, with Supercharged Offers, so we've been investing in the real estate business in the US for 8 years now, but Supercharged Offers has only been going for 5. First 4 years of our business in Supercharged Offers, which is a marketing business for real estate investors, the entire business, and I say this with pride, it was built on referrals and repeat business, which is great. We actually hadn't done any actual marketing or sales until last year. And it was as a result of that 10 out of 10 question that we went, well, what is our strategy for sales? Like, we can't rely on referrals and repeat business all the time. And we hadn't even structured that. So I'm very thankful and honored for our customers and what they did to help us with our business. But now that we switched on the sales engine, woo-wee, that's changed our business in good ways and bad ways, because now we've had to learn all over again what really is sales and how are we approaching that. What's the systems that we're using? What do we say yes to? What do we say no to? And how do we keep our North Star when it comes to our sales? So, I think the exciting thing about being a business owner and entrepreneur, Benson, is we never stop evolving or learning. We really don't.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's dig a little bit deeper into Supercharged Offers. Tell me what you guys do, who are your clients, and how do you help them?
Yeah, great. Thank you. So Supercharged Offers, essentially what we do is, you said it in the opening, we're an implementer. So there's loads of real estate people out there who are educators. They teach you how to do a deal. They teach you all about the asset class that you're doing, all of that. But a lot of students go and do the learning, but then they go to implement and they stop short. They're like, I'm in overwhelm. I don't know where to start. I've got all these things I need to do. And that's why 95% of people give up, because they get all this learning and then they just get scared of pushing the go button, like really going
Mm-hmm.
for it. So we step in at that point. Once they've done their education, maybe they don't even need education. They're smart enough to figure it out. But when they want to implement, when they want to take their strategy, their buy box, whatever it is that they're going after, we will literally implement that and be their fractional marketing team for them. How we do that is across what we call our 5Ds. So that's helping them out with business design, which is actually strategy, data, direct mail, and digital calling as well. So, or direct calling, sorry. So we're doing cold calling and direct mail, digital marketing, which is building out all of their online infrastructure, their socials, their websites, how that all works together. And then it's a done for you model. So we really want them to look at us as their fractional marketing team. And again, coming back to what I said before, Benson, about that move the needle stuff, this is where, aside from Supercharged Offers, this is where I see real estate investors who are successful and who aren't. The ones that are successful are focused on move the needle activities, which these days, no matter what asset class you're in, is really about understanding your markets and how to, read your market as to which market you're going into. But the most important thing is lead nurture and lead closure. I say this time and time again, this business of real estate investing is about relationships, not real estate. Real estate just happens to be what we're transacting.
Mm-hmm.
Relationships is where it's at. So when a lead comes through, I say this to all my customers, your job, get on the phone, build that relationship, build that trust and rapport with your property owner. Talk them through the offer process, send out your second offers, your third offers, like keep nurturing that pipeline, because no pipeline, no deals, no business. So really, again, to wrap that up, what we want to do, Benson, and at Supercharged Offers is increase the success rate for people out there doing real estate investing, make it easier for them to grow and scale their businesses by outsourcing to a fractional marketing team that can do all the stuff that they need to do. Because the other thing that I think is important, if I ask you this question, when you think of a real estate investor, how many hats do you think they wear in their business?
20.
Yeah, I'd say it's up at about that too. So again, for anyone listening, if you're a real estate investor, here's some of the hats you need to wear, right? An entrepreneur hat, a data person, a content writer, a designer, a developer, someone that understands direct mail, a marketer, a salesperson, a negotiator, someone that can understand legal paperwork. Like the list goes on, right? There's so many hats that they wear. And that's why a lot of people give up, Benson, because let's face it, I don't know anyone that can actually confidently wear all of those hats and be an expert in all of them.
It's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And
Was that what they're saying? Jack of all trades, master of none.
right. And that's common with entrepreneurs, right? And they
Yeah.
end up focusing on what they like to do and what they know how to do. And what I've learned by working with investors and being an investor myself is that where most people fall short is the ability to do the sales process itself. Like lead gen, you could have the best marketing generation machine in the business, right? You could have all these leads coming in, but then somebody has to get on the phone with them and actually take them through that process of building rapport,
Yeah.
building trust, get them to a point where they feel comfortable talking about the property they're going to sell and why they want to sell, like what's their why. And then, getting them to a close, doing what do they call them? Transactional closes, or small closes along the way,
Yep.
and then eventually getting to a point where you can make an offer. And that is really, really difficult to do. Is that part of what you help them with, or is once the lead gets into their lap, you guys are kind of done with it?
Yeah. Once the lead gets into their lap, it's over to them. However,
Hmm.
they're on calls with myself and my team very regularly. And what I'm doing on a lot of those calls, Benson, is actually coaching them on how to have conversations with people. And here's where
Yeah.
and like I agree with what you've said there, but it comes with one caveat, and our friend Brent Daniels, right? This is what
Hmm.
his tagline, which I love, TTP, talk to people. So when it's when the lead comes through and you've got to get on the phone and build that rapport and run your numbers and make your offers and put it into closing, all that stuff, just talk to them like you'd want to be talked to. Because at the end of the day, these property owners are just like people like you and us. They own a piece of property. They want someone to help them with the property. Perhaps they've tried to, if it's a piece of vacant land or a distressed house and they've tried to list it with a realtor, but the realtor won't take it because it's got problems. Like your job as a real estate investor, depending upon what asset class and what your strategy is, but for a lot of the properties out there, your job is to provide a service to be able to take this property off this person and relieve them of the stress of it.
Hmm.
And part of that is just having conversations. Like, don't go into this feeling like you need to know it all and you need to be an expert salesperson. My best customers are the ones that are just being human. They're just having
Hmm.
open conversations with people. If they don't know the answer, they'll go and find it out. Be human and act with integrity, and people pick up on that. I really do believe that.
I think they do too.
Mm.
And I think that, it's a small enough community to where, like, if you take advantage of somebody, like, word spreads fast, right? And there's also this thing called karma, which I don't know if I 100% believe in it, but I feel like what goes around comes around.
Yeah.
And, there's just the universe listens. But so if you go into every situation with the intent of just helping somebody with their problem, and if a loan modification is the best option, then maybe that's okay.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a short sale, or
Yep.
maybe it's some other solution that doesn't require the investor to get the property,
Yeah.
right? Like that's a really good approach, and that's one of the things that I really liked. I met a group from the Crown City Homes Group out of Kansas City. I met
Yep.
them through Mike Hambright's mastermind, Ben Algeier and Todd Marriott.
Yep.
And I watched their process, and they really take that approach where they want to help first, and if at the very end of the process it makes sense for them to buy the house, then they'll do it.
Yep.
And they've helped hundreds and hundreds of people get out of bad situations, and more often than not they don't get the property. I think that's a great approach.
Yeah. I love that. What goes around comes around. I 100% believe in that. Give you another example. So a lot of our customers do vacant land because that's what we tend to invest in as well. I had a customer a couple of months ago. I was on a call with her, and she said, look, I had this customer come through. It's a really difficult probate. The numbers don't work for me, but I'm going to see if I can help them anyway. And so she ended up helping out the entire family. There was 4 heirs that needed to agree. She got on a call with all of them. She helped them through the process, helped them understand what probate was, spoke to a probate attorney, got all the facts that was needed to pass on to the family, helped them really come to the decision of, what they want to do with the property and how that all works. At the end of the day, she didn't get the deal. But here's what happened. 2 of the family members spoke to their neighbor and said, we've just spoken with the most amazing person. She was so helpful. We've now got a way forward with our property. And, this person was wonderful. That neighbor owns 5 properties. Guess who got the call the next day?
Your client.
My client
Yeah.
got the call from this random person saying, I hear you've just helped out my neighbor on something. I don't need a probate done, but they spoke about you with such high regard. I've got 5 properties. I've been getting all these letters from people, but I don't really trust them because they're all a bit salesy. You know, can you help me out? She ended up buying 3 of the properties and got a 6-figure deal out of it. So, you know, this whole thing about
Amazing.
karma and do good to get good. I'm just such a big believer in that. You know,
Oh yeah.
it's all too often in business, and you know, you and I are part of the same mastermind group that has a lot of go-givers in there, which is great. But every now and then I get a sense from someone. I call it intuition more than anything, but I get a sense every now and then I meet the odd person that I'm like, oh, you're not a go-giver, you're a go-getter. As in, I want to get something from you, not give.
Right.
And it casts a different energy, right? And I don't want to get all woo-woo about it because I'm sure your listeners are like, where is this going? But there is that sense in there about you get an appreciation for someone when you understand that they are coming from a place of integrity.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. And it's palpable, the difference in somebody who's a go-giver and a go-getter, or
Or a go taker.
go-taker.
Let's call them that, a go
Yeah,
taker.
go-taker, right? It just comes off different.
Yeah, it does.
Right. And so like a lot of times when we're out, in networking and stuff, I'm wanting to learn about people. I want to learn what they're up to and how we can work together. And these are professional settings. So there's a goal there, right? We want to balance this, like building relationships and finding common ground and figuring out where we can help each other. But it isn't a place where you want to go and just sell.
Yeah.
You don't sell yourself. You don't want to sell your products and services. And I think that could be said for any sort of like networking scenario, the local REIA club where they meet once a month, or if you go to a mastermind, or these different summits and things, like you should definitely go there with a purpose and know like what's going to be the ROI on this investment, because they usually cost money.
Yeah.
And that's great, but the goal shouldn't be there to go and just sell what it is you're selling.
Yeah. I completely agree. And interestingly enough, coming back to that, the part of the conversation we had earlier about what do you say yes to and say no to. So last year, we actually went to 4 real estate conferences, and we go with the intent of giving, like helping people out. But equally, you do want to get some kind of return on investment when you're sponsoring these events, or, you know, not going as an attendee, but going and actually being there and you know, selling your products and services. And 2 of the events, we got an invite to come back, but we looked at, is that our tribe? You know, is that the people that we can give to and we can genuinely help, but are also going to be right for us as well? And we had to say no to 2 of them. And I guess again, coming back to that North Star and really being clear, not only when it is attending conferences, but I love what you just said. You know, when you do go into a networking event or anything like that, like really be clear on what am I here to give, but also what am I here to learn, rather than
Mhm.
going in with the mindset of what am I here to get?
Right. And
Very different energy.
learn too, but also like what relationship can you form?
Yeah.
Right. Because these are the people, right? We talked about this being a relationship business, and that one relationship, maybe somebody who you don't even think you have like a good sort of potential bond with, or where there's a good collaboration or JV that can come out of it. Maybe it's somebody they know. So
Yeah.
I've met people at these events like, oh, I want you to meet so and so, right? And then they're immediately want to introduce you to somebody they know, where like you guys would have a good collaboration. So it isn't the person that you talk to necessarily who's going to be that great new business partner for you, or that you
Yeah.
can work with, but somebody that they know, or a person that they know. And people love to share. People love to help out.
Yep. I always say, what's everyone's favorite topic? Themselves.
Yeah,
So when you get people talking and you ask good questions, it's amazing what you'll find out and what connections can be made as a result. Yeah, 100%.
absolutely. Well, thinking about that topic, can you think of like what would be like the best scenario that you've ever experienced, where you went to a conference or went to a mastermind and you left there thinking, "Oh my gosh, like that one relationship that I just made was the most important of the year or of this conference."
Yeah. Oh, there's so many that come to mind, but
And you don't have to drop names either if you don't want, but
I will drop names, but it was actually beginning of last year. We got invited. I got invited to speak at Tim Mai's Hero Coaches Summit, and I'd never met Tim in person before. We'd only ever spoken doing a podcast together and all of that, and just trying to make my mark into the US market when it comes to those networks and relationships. And as a result of that summit and meeting Tim in person, but the other people that I met as a result of that, and a lot of the ones that I'm thinking of are actually part of our family mastermind too, that really solidified the face-to-face connection and where to kind of take it from there. And one of the other people that was actually at the event was Rafaela Zabala, who I now consider a very close personal friend. And you can't replace what it is when you go to these things and meet people face to face and actually have that connection. But yeah,
Right.
out of that particular conference, meeting Tim and meeting Rafa, not only did I solidify them both as friends, but as a result of what they've brought to our business and perspective and sharing of information and vice versa has now been phenomenal. So, I refer people to them all the time and they refer back, and it's just this beautiful, yeah, it's a friendship that's also part of business.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I think that that's the other, again, I'm quite different to a lot of other entrepreneurs out there that, you've met me in person. I'm very friendly. I'll go talk to anyone. I'll chat about anything. But I think that just being genuinely yourself and not being guarded is one thing that I've had to overcome. Because let me tell you, Benson, and again, I'll be pretty open when I talk to people here. A lot of the times when I go to these conferences, I've got a massive imposter syndrome in the back of my head that's like, why are you here? Like, who says you should be the one that gets up there and talks? Who says you should be the one that has that relationship? Now, don't ask me where that comes from, because I don't have a scarcity mindset. I have an abundance mindset, but there's something in me that always questions, like, why am I good enough to be here yet? And so you've always got to manage that little voice and be like, yeah, quiet down in the back there. Like, I know you're there
Right.
trying to keep me safe, but that's actually not keeping me safe. That's keeping me small. So
Mhm.
don't listen to the voice. Keep going anyway. Because you just never know who you'll meet or what relationship will get put in front of you.
Absolutely. I mean, we've all got those limiting beliefs, different things that tells us, maybe we don't deserve something or we're not good enough or, the imposter syndrome things. But,
Yeah.
you're from Australia and you've overcome so much where to now you're doing business internationally, with a big presence here in the US. Like, how did you decide way back when that, you know what, Australia's just not big enough for me?
It's not a case that Australia is not big enough. Australia is just too damn expensive.
Mhm.
So when we started investing here in the US, we were doing some research at the time on different markets and what we could do, like, and we started fixing and flipping houses in Florida. And then we had some rentals at the time as well. And then we got into vacant land. But way before that, when we were looking at what to do, we had between Matt and I, we had quite a few properties in Australia, but the strategy over there is so far different to here. And the point of entry is so far different. So when we were thinking about, like, what kind of lifestyle do we want to lead? Okay, we want to have a lifestyle that we can work from anywhere. So location freedom. We want time freedom. We haven't got that yet, but we're working on it. And we want financial freedom, which we're on our way to getting, which is great. But to do that in Australia through property takes a long time and a lot of money. And so when we really were assessing, well, could we do that here? The answer was no, we're going to have to keep working for the next 20 years to build up a portfolio big enough that will start to pay for our lifestyle. And that's
Mm.
going to take a long time. So what was the fast track? Let's explore some other markets around the world. And the US just kept coming up time and time again.
So, with respect to the Australian market, you know, things are more expensive, but you could say the same thing about US. Like, there are still expensive markets, and on the coasts mostly, right, compared to like the
Yeah.
Midwest and the center of the country. But people can still operate in San Francisco.
Yeah.
They just have to go and find access to more resources. So what would prevent you from, just finding somebody who could lend you all the money that you need, other people's money, right?
Yeah.
Are they
OPM, other
subject
people's money.
to, are there hard money lenders? Like what were the
There is not.
boundaries? And there's not. Okay.
No, and this is the catch-22. So there's a couple of things from Australian real estate perspective that are real prohibitors. Number one is funds and cost of entry. So where I live in Melbourne, Australia, when I talk about the average, like the average house price, this is not inner city, beautiful areas. This is an average house that's probably 20 miles out of the city in like a suburban area, 3-bed, 2-bath, average. You're probably looking at 1.5 to 2 million average.
Wow.
Where I live in the inner city area, average house prices are more like 2.5 to 3 million. Now, does vacant land exist for people to go and build their own? Hardly ever. Everything's all built up because we're very concentrated in our cities. So the geography and the ability to do stuff is also very limited. Whereas in the US, you can walk down any street and it's like, oh, vacant lot, distressed house, I can knock that down. You don't have that in Australia. The second thing that prohibits is data. So access to data to be able to find out what's a distressed property, what's the history of the owner, how much do they pay on back taxes and liens that have they got owing, what's their loan to value ratio, like all of these things that help us find distressed owners over here. You do not have access to that data in Australia. So being able to even market direct to someone, you just can't because you don't know anything about them. It's all privacy on lockdown. The third thing is about strategy. So the traditional way of doing business in Australia, and this is the same in a lot of countries around the world, by the way, is a realtor or a broker will transact all the properties for you. It's the only way to really go about it. Off-market deals, subject to creative financing, doing seller financing, non-existent. It's just not a way of doing business. So that then really limits the strategy that you can do as well.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Do you think that's a function of the government in wanting to control the data and making sure that, they're probably not big fans of entrepreneurs either, right?
Yeah, and Australia's also got this thing, and I say this with the utmost of respect for my Australian friends, but we have a thing in Australia called a tall poppy syndrome. Okay.
Can you repeat that? A what? Tall
Tall
poppy?
poppy syndrome. Think
Okay.
about a poppy flower when it grows. It has a really long stem,
Mm-hmm.
and the longer it gets, it kind of falls over or people chop it off. But that thing about entrepreneurialism and calling yourself an entrepreneur, if you said that in Australia, a lot of people would be like, you're a what? Like they think of it as a word that's like, whatever. But over here, like we go to conferences, what do you do? I'm an entrepreneur. Cool. What in? So it's just part of the vernacular over here that it's just not in Australia. But if you were to say to someone in Australia, where we're very English like this, right? Like think about most of us come from England. So the English, they don't like to talk about money. Not many people in Australia do either. When you talk about big lofty goals, like big goals that scare you, like we talk about the BHAG, the big hairy audacious goal. If you were to talk about some of that stuff in Australia, a lot of the times you'll get responses like this, Benson. Well, that sounds interesting. Like to see when that happens. Or you can't do that. That's not done here. Or oh, that kind of goes against the grain of how things are done in this country. So that tall poppy syndrome is people unknowingly, because it's a cultural thing, right? People unknowingly snip you off before you've even got a chance to grow. Because it's just culturally, we're kind of brought up to play it safe, to abide by the
Right.
rules. We're very much a rule-abiding country, which I love. But in terms of entrepreneurialism and doing things that are outside of the box, you've got a big fight ahead of you to do that. Whereas here, what I love here, this is for anyone listening, first of all, real estate in America, thank your lucky stars that you live here and you do real estate here, because it is the best country in the world to do real estate in. Entrepreneurship, entrepreneurialism, entrepreneurship, I was trying to think of the right word there, combining two words into one. The minute you go to a meetup, a conference, a mastermind, whatever it is, or even just lunch with friends, if you say you've got an idea, here's how Americans respond. That's awesome. How do I get involved? Or, hey, I know someone that's done something similar. Let me hook you up with them. Or I've got people in my network that might want to invest in that. Let me introduce you. Can you see the differences in the responses?
Yeah.
It's just culturally so different. That's why we
It
absolutely
is.
love doing business here. Because every idea that Matt and I come up with, we get feedback that is like, that's awesome. So,
Oh
that
yeah.
prompts you to keep going. And that's
Well, it
really
helps
big.
if you've got a good idea too,
Yeah.
and you're full of them. So that not all ideas are created equal.
Yes, yeah,
Um,
that's true.
so I mean, let's talk about that difference then of how entrepreneurialism is different here in the US. And
Yeah.
you've traveled the world too. And sure, there's always room for improvement with any country. Like, what is your perspective of the United States in general? And you like it here so much that you do business and you also live here from time to time. Like, what's your perspective on the US?
Or as in doing business in the US?
Just perspective in general. We
Okay.
know you like doing business.
Um, oh, this could go down a number of different avenues, Benson, but let me give you the 30,000-foot view at this
Okay.
point. When I think about America, I think land of opportunity. So, land of the free, land of opportunity, that is a real thing. I do think there is a bit of a divide in this country between the haves and the have-nots. Like, what is unique to America is most of America's general income comes from entrepreneurs and business owners. Doesn't come from people just doing a job for someone else. So the level of entrepreneurs in this country and the level of self-owned small to medium businesses far outweighs anything I've ever seen in any other country. But here's why. You've got 350 million people in this country. Australia's only got 27 million. So your ability to do more, be more, have more, have an abundance mindset, have a growth strategy, all of that stuff, you can do so much more in this country because there's just access to more. Now that more can come through the lens as funding, business partners, masterminds, training, all these different things, which you just seem to have in abundance in the US, unlike any other country I've seen. I mean, tell me every day that you go to your Facebook feed, Benson, there's not another conference on. There's not another mastermind group that's been started. Like, it is prolific, but I love that. Now, like you said before, they're not all created equal, but your ability to do so much more in this country is just such a gift. It really is. The only thing and again, I don't think we need to have this as part of a conversation, but the political view of America is definitely something that I get challenged by. And coming from a country where the right to bear arms is something that is very foreign to us, that still gets to me every now and then. Gets to me in a way that I'm trying to understand and appreciate it. And I don't want to polarize anyone by my views, but I do really feel that there needs to be some change in this country on things to protect I say our people because I feel like I'm part of it now.
Mhm.
But again, I think that entrepreneurs and small business people they're the ones that shape the change in this country. It's not the politicians, from what I can
Right.
see. Because when you've got a decision to make at a macro level, like when you're the president of the United States, when you're POTUS, if you've got change to make, that takes a long time to trickle through. And I kind of look at the US and go, this is like 50 different countries all in the one. Because you can go from one state to the next and it's a totally different culture, dialect, food, business, state to state, the taxes, regulations, state to state, things are different. Most other countries around the world, Australia included, it's a federal view. So when
Right.
we enact change, it happens very quickly because you got less people to impact and it's all one decision, one for all. But equally, I also love that about America. I love that it's so diverse and that allows you in each state to do business in a very diverse way as well.
Yeah, and it was designed that way intentionally,
Mm.
right? They saw, the founders did, that way back when in England, when there was one person or a small group of people making the decisions for everyone, that didn't go so well.
Mm.
So when they came here and they designed it in a way where the states have the rights to, set it up how they want it in their own state, then that's great because then you have choice. If you don't like the way that it goes in your state, then move to a different one. And
Yep,
and that's powerful, right?
it
That's
is.
that's really powerful for people to be like, you know what? I want to be a landlord. I want to own apartment buildings. Well, I'm not going to buy in Illinois because they're more tenant friendly. right? So you can really manage your business there to fit how you as you want to do business.
Yeah.
And I think it's great that you have the ability to come here and do business,
Yep.
right? From a
Me too.
completely different country and still prosper and be, welcomed with open arms. And I would say too, probably there's a lot of people are intrigued by your accent and the way you are.
Yeah.
And they want to do
I'm
business
a
with you. They want to,
novelty, Benson, that's for sure.
but that's so cool because you actually are harnessing that, the power of that and leveraging it in a way to help you in your business because it's unique.
Yeah.
Now, if
And
that's
I
all
hope
you
as well.
had, it wouldn't be as powerful. Like you're way more than just an accent, and and really nice person, right? Like you've proven it through, how you go and you do business and through the success of your clients.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I so appreciate that. And I think, more than anything, maybe a nice way to wrap up this conversation is to say that when you're an entrepreneur, the mindset that I have is not only am I trying to do good in this world by helping other people and by proxy of that helping ourselves grow, but I hope that we become inspiring in some way to others who might be looking at us and sitting in their life, regardless of what country they come from, but sitting in their life and going, well, if she can do it, what can I do? If they
Hmm.
can do it, my business partner and I, what can we do? Because nothing in this world is, well, I shouldn't say nothing. When you've got big goals and big dreams, the only thing that generally stands in your way is yourself,
Right.
generally. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
look at everything you do and you inspire me. Like what you have created with Privy and how you're helping others to make decisions in their businesses, like it's phenomenal. And the amount of people you and I
Thank
come
you.
across that we are probably equally inspired by. Again, we've said it a few times on this call, what goes around comes around. And I think collectively, they say you're the product of the top 5 people you hang out with, right? So
Right.
hanging out with movers and shakers is definitely something that in the US it's welcomed, it's reciprocated, and I love it about here.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that. That's very nice of you. But you're right. It is about who you put yourself around because, it's a choice and it's not always easy too. Like
Mm.
it's hard work to get into the same rooms of people who are moving and shaking. And sometimes they don't want you there, right? Now, not to say that they're gonna shun you, but they want you to earn the right to be there. And if
Yes.
you've done the work and you've built the right relationships, they will welcome you.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot that you can be accomplished by just building those strong relationships like we've, worked so hard to build. It will
Yeah.
open doors that if you try to do it a different way, like maybe you wouldn't get the same level of success or, the quickness to that next milestone, right? You got all these
Agreed.
new goals that you guys have put in place since you reevaluated. And, those goals are going to come faster. And that's why you're spending so much time in the US,
Yeah.
networking with the people that you do.
Yep. 100% Benson. And, for anyone listening to this who has crossed my path, thank you.
Mhm.
Because we do really feel like when I come here, I'm welcomed with open arms, and it just humbles me every time I come here and do business and help our customers, just how wonderful it really is here. So
Yeah.
Australia will always be home, but US has got my heart, that's for sure.
Yes. We did it. We did it, you guys.
Yes.
So for people who are interested in scaling up, like who would be like the ideal client for supercharged offers?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. Ideal client for us is somebody who maybe has done 1 or 2 deals, regardless of what asset class you're in. And they're like, okay, I've got my proof of concept. Now I'm really ready to go. I want to ramp up my business. I want to not have to do it all myself. And I want to have a fractional marketing team that can actually run my acquisitions marketing for me. So I can just focus on getting my deals over the line. That's our perfect
Mm,
ideal customer. They know what they're doing. They know what their strategy or what they want their strategy to be. They've got a runway of funds to put into their business. Because again, I still see so many marketers out there going, do business with no money down. And it's like, yeah, you can do a deal with no money down, but you can't really do a business with no money down. So anyone who's ready to get going, wants to have their marketing done for them, has a budget to work with, bring it on.
awesome. And you've got that handy QR code there. that people can scan. It looks like
Yep.
that will set up an appointment with you or somebody on
No,
your
this
team.
QR code here is one of our free giveaways, and this takes them
Oh,
to what's called a success scorecard, where they can run through and do a self-assessment on their business, according to our 5Ds that I mentioned earlier. So it's going to give them a personalized report on where their business is at in relation to how they're handling data, their digital marketing, their direct mail, for example. And that will then lead them to book a call as well. But it's just a freebie for people to just pause and assess where they're at with their business, that North Star, that strategy. It's just there for free. But if they wanted to get in touch with me, just go onto superchargedoffers.com or email me at Alicia, that's ALICIA. Always have to spell that out because people get it wrong. That's the other thing with Americans. My name's never right. So that's why everyone calls me AJ. And so Alicia at superchargedoffers.com, or jump into our Facebook group and you can message us there as well.
are you doing anything on social media? Do you have like a Instagram or TikTok or anything?
Yeah, definitely Instagram and Facebook. So Supercharged Offers on Facebook, or just Alicia Jarret on Facebook. You'll see me. I do a lot of stuff on there to celebrate our customers and everything that we're doing. And and also Instagram as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate you.
Thank
It's
you,
always fun to talk
Benson.
to you, and I always learn something new, and I'm fired up too. Like you got me all excited to kill the rest of this week, because next week I'm going to be at the Squad Up Summit
Oh, fantastic.
out in Orlando. So, my goal there is to meet some people and strengthen relationships and go in there with a purpose. But I really do appreciate you, taking the time. Thank you, everybody, for watching this episode today of the REI Hacker Podcast. I'm really excited for future guests. Alicia was amazing today. She gave us lots of nuggets on how to, work outside your local country. Also, what I thought was important about that was that, she didn't let her geographical boundaries stop her. She realized that there was some limitations to her, executing her plan. And did she stop? No, she chose a new path, found a solution, and now she operates in the United States and all over the all over the world. So please like and follow this podcast. We've got more exciting and inspirational guests. They're going to come on to talk about their challenges in business and entrepreneurship and real estate investing. And please share this podcast with your friends and family if you think it will help them as well. So thanks again for listening, and everybody have a fantastic day.
That's a wrap on today's Real Estate Revelations. Thank you for tuning into the REI Hacker Podcast. Remember, every property has a story, and every deal is a lesson. Until next time, keep hacking the real estate world.